What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another one of my videos. Today we're talking about GBPJPY. I took a trade here. It's going really nicely, and I want to kind of cover why this trade worked out, or at least how I dealt with this trade, because initially it was a losing position, and it's something that I actually built a position in. We're going to talk all about that and more. I'm going to break down the video or the trade start to finish, so stay tuned. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back. So if you don't know me already, my name is Nick, and here on my channel I talk all about trading and investing, and occasionally I'll make videos like this where I talk about individual trades, whether they're winners or losers. I've shared videos on both. I actually find that the losing trades are more helpful to myself to cover in a video, as well as other people out there who I know are probably struggling with a lot of the same things. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to talk about a GJ trade that I took on the long side that initially did not go well. Now, this strategy that I'm running here does not use a stop loss, and I know that people out there will say, you know, that's stupid, you should never do this, but don't worry, I do have a risk management model that does not necessarily include a stop loss, but it does have a max drawdown, and it has a way to get out of trades if they go wrong. I do not encourage people, if you don't know what you're doing, don't trade without a stop loss. You should always have a plan, you should always know what you're doing, but for me, this is something that I have worked on, and I've run this sort of strategy for years, and it's been a relatively successful one. But today I took a position, or actually a little while ago I took a position here in GJ on the long side, and initially it did not go well. Fortunately, when I use these sort of strategies, I use a very small position. In fact, I've got Discord pulled up here. This is the A1 trading community where I share my trades, as well as some of our other analysts you can see over here on the left. By the way, there should be a link in the description for you to check out if you're interested in joining our premium group. So in this channel, I share my personal trades. And what you can see here is I took a small position on GBPJPY looking for a bounce off of the previous low. So I shared this chart here. Basically what we had was we had a range bound market, and I wanted to jump in right around here looking for a little bit of a long sided trade here on, I think it was the 4-hour or the daily chart. I can't remember exactly, but I shared basically at the time why I had a bullish bias, and I was very not correct. Fortunately, as I mentioned, I took a small position here, very small position for my bigger sized account. And I basically said, as I took the first trade, I said, I'm willing to build a bigger position if price drops a bit further, as I have a bullish bias on GBP pairs due to the strong stock markets and weakening yen pairs. Fast forward, you guys may already know the stock market has been doing really well. Things have been going very positive, and overall, this GJ trade has rebounded very nicely and become profitable, even due to the fact that, again, there's a lot of correlation here with positivity towards those GBP, Aussie, New Zealand, more risk on currencies, and selling things like the Swiss and in this case, the yen, right? So people are selling the yen and flocking towards the GBP, which is causing the price to rise. So we'll go into the actual chart here. So that was the trade. I shared the details there with members, and that's where we started out. Now, again, initially when I took this trade, things kept going. In fact, we were very early to actually get into the trade. It was May 5th, so right around here where I actually got into the trade. And what you'll notice here is that initially we were very incorrect. So I was looking for an extended level. I thought that this level would hold, especially after all this previous bullishness, right? We saw a lot of hold, and so I was thinking we could get the rise. That did not actually end up happening. And so when price continued lower, right, that's where I said, I came back into the Discord and I said, hey, you know, I actually also want to just say that I have a pending buy limit at 130.607. So I'm looking to build a bit bigger of a position, as I used a very small beginning lot size as mentioned before. This pair is quite volatile, which GJ, if you know it, it trades lots of volatility here on this pair. So I occasionally like to build a position in pieces, average down my entry. I know it's not for everybody, but I would ask, you know, again, to each their own, let bygones be bygones. This is a strategy that's worked for me for quite some time, and I have a plan in place in order to deal with losing trades, which in this case, fortunately, it did not, you know, cross any barriers that I was not comfortable with, and actually ended up being very profitable. So we'll fast forward in just a moment. But again, we fast forward to, I took another position. I got filled on that secondary trade here on GJ. Eventually, we did get the secondary trade, and we are currently holding on to it at the time of making this video. Okay, so GJ making its move to the upside. We have another Euro USD trade that was just put on yesterday, but you can see now this trade has actually rolled over very nicely. nicely. So as price was down in the lows here, I actually added a secondary position. This one also relatively small. Okay, so if we actually change it to the 4-hour chart, this might give us a little bit of a picture, because when I was first looking at this, it was on the 4-hour chart. And so what we actually saw was recently we had a lot of bullishness on the stock market pop up the price again, and GJ kind of followed suit as people were selling the yen, right? So in this case, we had GBPJPY. And as the US stock market has risen on, positive news about potential vaccines, and, positivity has kind of hit the stock market, we've seen things like the yen, which is historically a safe haven currency, get sold off, right? Which causes the GBP relatively to move up. And so we've seen some really nice strength come into this pair, GJ, moving up nicely. Okay, so my secondary position was actually much better than my first. You can see price came down into this area. We were initially down about 100 pips on this, but again, it's a swing trade, it's a longer term trade, and GJ moves like crazy. So small position, looking to hold that one. And now what you can see is that secondary position is almost up 200 pips and looking very, very good. So now the original trade is just about nearing break even, and the secondary trade is heavy in profits. So not bad at all. And in this case, I'm very happy with things turning out the way they have. But let's talk about that second entry again. So here on the 4-hour chart, price was basically getting stretched to the downside, but I still liked the idea of looking for bullishness here off of this rally. So what you'll notice is that price basically came down to that 50% retracement, and I wanted to hop in there. So I was a little bit early to the train, but I wanted to get involved after seeing this candle here towards the wicks of this daily low. I basically wanted to get in. So I jumped into another secondary small position here. Okay, so that gives us, what was it, May 5th. So if we find May 5th again, there's May 5th. So May 5th, we took our first position here, and then the number 2 position was here. So again, nothing crazy, not adding massive positions to a losing trade. This was something that from the very beginning, as I mentioned in my trade that I shared with the members, I said I'd be happy to build a bigger position if we get a little bit more of a pullback. So what was the reasoning? Why did I think that this price was going to go up? Because I didn't know it was going to go up. I just had a bias towards the upside. Well, pound pairs have been moving, especially pound yen. We saw this really nice shift in energy. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear some of these indicators on here. These indicators are nothing crazy. They're just kind of a volatility stretch that I look at. It's not like a magical, it's just a moving average with a band on it. But basically, what you'll notice is that here we had this kind of bullish push off of the lows. And after this bullish push, this is where things kind of shifted nature. We had this really strong dominant downward trend, and then ever since we saw this strong push, I've been looking for that counter trend to pull back to significant levels in order to get long on the next push higher. Okay, and so that brings me back to where I was looking for those pullbacks, right around that 50% retracement, and also initially that 23.6. So the first one was not great, but the second one was pretty decent, and overall very up on the account here at the time of making this video. So hopefully we can get price to pop a little bit more to the upside and get us out there at our target. Hey traders, a little update here on GJ. What you'll see is that we did get a little bit of a pullback here, so I had to kind of delay my next recording of this video, but essentially we had, again, that secondary trade that worked out really nicely. We were headed towards our point of getting out of the trade, but we actually topped off and pulled back. This is never fun, and I'm sure many of you guys have been in a situation like this. If you've been trading for any amount of time, this happens where it looks like it's headed towards your target, and then it takes a pause and it pulls back. Now we are in the context of a downtrend here, at least on the 4-hour chart. So I have to be careful here. I have to look, and I've been watching this price pretty regularly. Again, I am long. I've got 2 long positions here, but it's partially due to this daily setup that I like here. Again, the concept that we talked about earlier in the video, which is, basically pulling back off of a strong push to the upside that broke some of this downtrend structure. And we've seen it play out good so far. We will see how it goes, but I do like this one daily candle that we're looking at here. What you'll notice is right now we've got kind of a little bullish hammer kind of printing here. So we had this push to the upside, we had the pullback, and then we started to see some nice rise off of that pullback, which is basically where we're at right now, and looking to see if we can get this price to head back in our direction. If it doesn't, what I will likely do is look to get out of this trade as soon as possible with as little damage as possible as well. Right now, this trade is better than break even, right? Because we had trade number 1 and trade number 2. We are up on this account or up on this trade pretty nicely. And so we're looking to see if we can get a little bit more follow through. But again, just watching it, this is hopefully helpful to you guys because I'm still in the trade and I'm sharing a little bit of my analysis. If we drop it down to the 1 hour chart, this level right here is very promising, and this is what I'm going to be looking for if price decides to go my direction. What you'll notice is that we've got this kind of downtrend line, right? You've got these resistance and rejection points, and price actually was able to break out as I was hoping for. We retested it, and we're showing a lot of bullishness in that area. So I'm looking for that to continue. If it does not continue, I will likely cut the trade for a little better than break even, and we'll call it a day on this trade. I'm happy either ways, and I'll respect my rules either ways, but that's kind of the parameters that I've set. If we start to see failure here, if I see price action signs of a failure here, then I will likely go ahead and close my position. Again, overall up on the trade pretty nicely. So we'll see what we can get out of the account. But again, if we can see this kind of breakout continue, which I think has a pretty decent chance of doing, we've seen some pretty clear signs, right? You've got a big bullish green candle here. We've retested that area and found support here, and looks like we're shooting off of that level nicely. We'll see how this candle closes, and we'll watch it from here to see if there's any sort of signs of continuation. If it keeps going, we'll let it run. If it does not, we will go ahead and cut it short. So that's all I've got for now, and we'll be back soon with an update. Hey traders, so quick little update here on GBPJPY. This is actually after the weekend, so I held this position open. It is now Monday, so Sunday opened up, the markets opened, and we've seen a little bit of bullishness here on GBPJPY. Now you might actually see that we are actually further down from where we were. Before we were actually in profit, and about now we are just about break even. And I wanted to get on here and talk about kind of my last straw, trying to see if I can get a little bit more bounce out of this before I actually close out this trade for a break even / slightly lost. But this is what it's going to take for me to actually get out of the trade. I have noticed that we've been in this downtrend now, and things have kind of switched. So we were watching this kind of trend line here where things were actually remaining bullish and holding above that level, right? Before we were talking about this area, this area, this area, right? And now price looked like it wanted to basically continue. Unfortunately, I was away from the chart. I did not get a chance to close out of this position because as soon as we started to kind of break back beneath, I probably would have liked to close the position. But now there's been some signs of more bullishness here in the short term. I'm watching this trend line here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. But essentially what you can see here is that we've got this downtrend overall, right? We've got the trend line that we were watching that was holding, but now seems to be back into kind of back into play here. And now we see this kind of strong counter trend still holding. And so here's my kind of final decision here on the trade. If price decides to break out, then I will probably hold this position and let it run up to a target such as something like this, okay? This would be a pretty decent target to me. So at this point, what I'm doing is I'm reevaluating the position. I'm looking at the most previous price action here on the 1 hour chart, and I'm watching to see what price decides to do. If price decides to break up to this point, then I'll probably go ahead and take profit. Now, if the other side of the coin happens, if we start to see price breaking bearish and continuing this downtrend, which is very possible, then I'll probably look to get out of the trade just for break even, because I'm not really willing to just keep holding this thing into a downtrend. Again, working with the position as best I can and making a decision based on this current environment is not exactly easy, just because we've had kind of some mixed signals. But again, long term, looking at that 4 hour chart, I liked the idea here of getting some rising pressure, and it still looks like it has that potential. So I want to give this thing one last chance to make a stab at moving higher. If it happens, then great, I'll look to take profits. But if it decides to break again, then I'm going to go ahead and probably assume that this downtrend is going to continue to roll over this price, and we'll see price continue. Now, of course, any of these trade updates that I actually place or make, I'll be sharing with members inside of the A1 Trading group. If you're not already a member, you can find out information in the description down below. But again, that's kind of an update, and next time I'll be closing this position, whether for a win or for a loss. We'll see how it goes. Hey guys, so I am just getting back here from the lake. I spent some time, some family and friends up at the lake for Memorial Day this weekend. And just getting back to my position here. So what you can see is actually GBPJPY here looking like it's just about ready for me to go ahead and pull profits off of this thing. Now what you'll notice is that the two trades here that I have, one is negative, right? So one is about 80 pips down, and again this is a swing trade, and the other is, let's say, roughly about 145 pips in profit. So right now things are looking pretty good. Net gain on this this position overall. You know, happy to see that we did in fact get that break above the resistance level as we were hoping for, but I am still going to go ahead and close out some profits as this trade has run longer than I expected it to. I guess I could trail profits, that is an option, but for me, I'm just going to go ahead and take profits right around this area and just take what the market has given me. I like some other setups in the market at this time, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this position and then go ahead and forward it to members inside of the A1 trading community. Okay, so I've just closed out of the position there for a pretty good sized gain. Pretty happy with the trade. Again, my first entry was a little bit early to the party, as you saw earlier in the video, but the second entry worked out pretty good. And now I'm gonna go ahead and send this message to our members and go ahead and forward that to everyone, just so that you guys can see kind of the process behind when I usually share my trades. Okay, so I just sent that message, and now I'm just gonna share my thoughts in terms of analysis here for members. Okay, cool. And so now we are all set. We've shared this with members, and overall a good trade. So guys, I hope this was helpful too. I hope that watching the trade start to finish, some of the imperfections or some of my thoughts along the way, hopefully were clear or helpful to some of you guys who are new traders. If this was helpful to you, do me a favor, like the video down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if you like this sort of stuff, comment down below, let us know if you want to see more of them and maybe what has been helpful in these sorts of videos and maybe what could be improved. Let me know. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you next time.